4, 3. Live from London, here's Car-Boyz. Hello.
Whoop-de-doo.
We're back on track. We return to the internet with a feast of vehicular features, from 4x4s in the city to sports cars in the third world. The show that was built for your radio is in the house. I think that's what the young people say. I'm not too sure. This week, coming up live from London Village, we've got a lot of stuff on the show. We have all the news that's fit to print in the car news. We're going to look at some great driving roads across the world in lost highways. And of course, it wouldn't be the car show on your radio without me delving into what you have on offer in the way of correspondence in the mail bag. We also have an absolute stormer of a classic in our classic car selection to coincide with Brexit, or the end of our union with Europe. We say zut alors, mon ami, and unlike President de Gaulle, we don't say non, but we say oui to a European classic car from the land that brought you baguettes, vin rouge, and topless sunbathing. You've got to love them. Yes, that's the French. And in case you were still guessing, this week we encourage you to forget the UK is no longer part of the EU and say a big c'est bon to the Citroën CX, probably the last great hurrah of the French automotive industry. I'll be telling you what to watch out for and how to buy a good one for a good price. And talking of cheap and cheerful.
Oh, great. Thanks, Rich. Yeah, they don't call me Quick Save Sujuan for nothing. Yes, it's the new Brexit free podcast, and it returns to the airways across the world via the internet. Don't worry, we're not going to be discussing anything to do with the European Union, apart from cars, and more cars. So, live from London this week, we've got the quiz of the week. Little nod there to Nicholas Parsons.
Just a minute, sorry.
Yes. To MOT or not to MOT, that is the question this week in the quiz. And as we mentioned earlier on, we'll be wheeling out the mailbag and answering some queries from listeners. We've got the news and, as usual, a rant about motoring from Rich. This week, it's all about Bambi. Oh dear. I'm Simon Chujuan, and my little pretty one, when you going to give me some Sharona? You make my motor run. You got to come in off the line, Sharona.
I thought we were going to change those lyrics to "I've got Corona" in honor of the virus, but we thought better of it. So it's okay, don't worry. The Car-Boyz hospital is being built outside out of an old
just garage. 10 days.
Actually less, 10 hours. I'm Richard Green, and it's only a game, so put up a good fight. I'm going to be snookering you tonight. I'm famed for my aim, so you better believe I'm right. I'm going to be snookering you tonight. My God, the most filthy lyrics. Now, if you're unaware, that was from a 1990s game show called Big Break that went out when families were watching. Broadcast about 5 o'clock Saturday afternoon. Who'd have thought Jim Davison was so filthy?
Was it Chas and Dave that wrote that as well?
I believe it was Chas and Dave. And I think John Virgo and Jim Davison sang on it as well.
That's right.
I hate to say it, I've got a feeling that my great-grandmother had the single. She was a fan of Chas and Dave. Anyway, this is
Car-Boyz.
Yep, it's that part of the show when I get on my high horse. I turn the studio into Hyde Park Corner. I step aboard my soapbox and argue the toss over the current issues of the day, the hot issues of the day. This week, it's not so much a burning issue, but rather a case of man versus beast on threat of death, literally. Now, we all like fluffy animals, we all like flora and fauna, and we all like the work of David Attenborough. But what we don't like as motorists is when that wildlife threatens our lives. Of course, we're not too concerned about a fly hitting the windscreen of our cars at 60 miles an hour, knowing the last thing that will go through his mind is his bum. What we do mind is a 300-pound herbivore shattering said windscreen and potentially decapitating all the passengers inside the vehicle. The large grazing animal I'm talking about, of course, is the deer, whose numbers are rising both here in Europe and across the pond on the east coast of the United States. This was brought abruptly home to me recently when my sister was driving through the Cotswolds along a relatively quiet 2-lane highway when a deer ran out and, well, let's say she crashed into the deer. We don't have Petra on our case. Rather than vice versa, she crashed into the deer, and both the deer and the car were involved in an accident that neither made it through alive. The car was written off, and the deer, let's just say that afterwards the deer was more like venison.
Ooh.
Although, much to my chagrin, my sister didn't recover the carcass from the scene of the accident, which I think would have been fantastic. We wouldn't have had to go to the butcher's for at least 6 months. And just think about it. Wouldn't a stuffed deer's head on the walls be something to talk about? Yes, her large Ford MPV was bent beyond recognition, and so was Bambi. Now, according to several UK studies, 400 drivers and their passengers are injured in collisions involving deer each year, and possibly as many as 1,000. And up to 20 people are killed. As for the deer, it's estimated at least 40,000 are killed on UK roads each year. The peak months for collisions are May and then October to January. And peak times are the early morning when deer go in search of a mate or new territories, also known as the rut. Imagine an 18th holiday in Magaluf, or if you're American, spring break in Miami, but with more horns. Meanwhile, in Germany, there are 1,000 fatal and 1,000 non-fatal and 20 fatal driver and passenger casualties each year, arising from 220,000 deer-related incidents. Canada doesn't get much better. Back in the year 2000, there were 29,000 animal vehicle collisions, resulting in property damage only, with an additional 1,887 involving non-fatal injuries and 23 fatal. The United States is the big problem. An estimated 1.23 deer-related accidents occurred in a one-year period in 2012. Deer vehicle collisions led to 200 human deaths, as opposed to, do they die? Yeah, I suppose they do die. Human deaths sounds weird. Deaths. And $1.1 billion in property damage every year. State and federal governments, insurance companies and drivers spend an additional $3 billion in an effort to reduce and manage the increasing number of deer-related collisions. Here in the UK, there are 3 types of deer you could end up hitting. And the countdown is red deer at the top. Indeed, they're the biggest land animal in the UK. Fully grown male measures up to 1.4 metres at the shoulder.
Wow.
So that's 190 kilograms. So that's almost 25 stone, I think.
Yeah.
Fallow deer are smaller males, 93 kilograms. That's about 14 stone. Muntjac are 18 kilograms, but at 30 miles an hour, that's still got the potential to cause significant damage or injury. Now, the reason I'm banging on about this is there is a growing problem with Rudolph and his friends and its population numbers. There are no wolves, tigers, lions, or dragons in the quiet lanes, byways, and highways of the UK, and the same can be said for the USA. That means Bambi and the other deer are top of the food chain with no predators, not even human ones. Deer hunting or stalking in the UK is very controlled, and it's a restrictive pastime. It doesn't even begin to put a dent into huge deer populations. Meanwhile, in the EU and America, deer numbers are growing so exponentially that there are calls for an open season on deer all year round to cope with the problem of loose animals on the highway and massive out-of-control populations decimating farmland. There are also theories that the huge rise in Lyme's disease in the USA, especially on the East Coast, is due to an overpopulation of deer on American soil. I can hear you cry. What's the answer? Well, I'm not calling for the mass culling of deer, although let's be honest, venison is expensive and it would certainly create a cheap source of healthy organic meat for the whole nation. Ever had venison?
I love it.
It's lovely. No, I don't think. I think the answer is a holistic approach to the whole situation. Let's slow down a bit on the roads when we're in rural areas. Keep an eye out for Bambi and Rudolph. If you live in the countryside, why not invest in some bull bars for the car, as they call them in Australia, rhubars, as they used to bash into marsupials and ensure humans don't die in an accident. Although at the moment down under, most of the marsupials are comprising the world's biggest barbecue. Anyway, the other answer is probably a little bit of culling. So let's keep down the numbers of wild deer and save human lives. I'm not entirely certain, but surely managing populations is environmentally positive, even a way to save the planet. Did you see what I did there? I became an environmentalist, just like Greta Thunberg. I should be in school.
How dare you?
How dare you? Yes, interesting. It is a really massive problem on the east coast of America. A lot of people die in accidents involving deer.
That's a lot, yeah. If you consider that in Europe, it seems we seem to be averaging, what, 20 something
about
deaths?
20. America, 200.
Ooh.
200.
I don't know. In this country, are the bull bars banned? Because I think they used to have like Land Rovers and
Oh,
Range
they're
Rovers. Used to
banned
be.
now. Oh,
I
probably.
think so.
Everything's banned. Oh,
Yeah.
you can't have bull bars anymore,
I
even if you
don't
live in the
think I can.
countryside. Oh, do you know what?
No.
I'm thinking you might be right. It's been a while since I've seen a Mitsubishi Pajero with bull bars on.
Or a Suzuki Vitara.
With bull bars on. The trouble with the Suzuki Vitara, that would cause it to fall over. Also, leaning against one side of the car would cause it to fall over. Now, I had a story about in America, deer populations are so prolific. A story I heard is about a guy that used to go hunting deer.
Yeah.
And he got a bit bored because he lived in a relatively rural area, and he noticed that they were coming in his garden. So what he did is set up a feeding station right at the end of his garden and a sniper rifle on his back porch with a telescopic lens. And that's how he got his deer. And he just shot 3 or 4 of them, and then there you go. He was good for probably 6 months, and then stuck it out again and shot 3 or 4.
Wow.
I actually, and the trouble is, in America, you cannot sell. In England, in the UK, if you a game you can sell. So you could go shooting wild, and all the a lot of the deer you eat in the UK is farmed. Some of it is shot. Certainly, all the game birds like partridges and things like rabbits are shot, so they're game. You can't sell shot meat in the United States. You can eat it, give it to your friends, but you can't sell it.
Ah.
So you've got a bit of a problem about keeping down numbers. And I think I know we're moving into other realms, but the pig population in Texas apparently horrendous, so bad that they go out with in helicopters with machine guns. But that be just because you're in Texas. I'm just putting it out there.
Probably, yeah.
Should we have some news?
Let's have some car news. And first off, this week in Are You Surprised You Can't Trust the Government news, the Driver Vehicle Agency, the DVA, the body responsible for licensing and testing vehicles in Northern Ireland, lovely part of the world, has suspended all MOTs following the discovery of serious shortcomings at several test centres. I shouldn't laugh at this, but hey. The organisation said anyone due to get the car or light vehicle MOT tomorrow should not attend. Tests on heavy good vehicles and buses will continue. A temporary MOT exemption certificate will be issued to drivers of all vehicles more than 4 years old. The announcement comes following the discovery last week of cracks in, get this, 48 of Northern Ireland's 55 state-operated vehicle lists, prompting the cancellation of around 5,000 MOT tests. The DVA said later inspections of the faults couldn't provide sufficient assurance of the safety of the repairs being carried out on an external by an external contractor. The DVA is reported to be considering various means of recommencing MOT tests, including the purchase of new lifts, which would make sense. Drivers have been advised to keep up to date with the situation via social media and the government website, which, if you're in Ireland, is nidirect.gov.uk. Unlike the rest of the UK, which has left Europe as well, MOT tests in Northern Ireland are carried out by 15 centres run by the DVA on behalf of the government. So, what's going on in Northern Ireland, where the government are running the MOT stations, where in this country, in Britain, certainly in England,
on the mainland,
you can go to any like local garage and they'll do the MOTs there. So, how does that work? Was it 48 of Northern Ireland's 55
lifts are cracked,
which leaves 7 remaining that
aren't cracked. That's the most insane thing I've ever heard in my life. Especially as having Northern Ireland roots myself, they're pretty together as a nation. They're they're stalwart people. Nothing, they build great machinery like the Titanic. Hang on, no, that doesn't work, does it? No, hang on, I've got it. They build great machinery like the DeLorean.
Struggling for examples.
They're famed for their weapons. Although I don't think they manufacture them. They're usually buying the AK-47s from the Czechs and the Armaloids from the Americans. I was shocked to hear it, but I think it's a case of that if you license it, and private companies can make some money out of it, as proven in the UK.
Yeah.
It's just got to tick the boxes, then that's fine. I think having these state-run centres, which I assume that's what we're talking about, state-operated vehicle lifts that are knackered, that are cracked. Absolutely insane. I mean, I do know that there's lots of people that have got MOTs that really shouldn't really have MOTs. Let's put it like this. There are a lot of people that get past their MOTs by slipping a cheeky £50 note into the pocket of the MOT assessor.
Showing some pictures of the Queen. I think
that's right. Showing some pictures of the Queen, and suddenly their car's passed the MOT. But I think that's pretty few and far between, and certainly as compared to the days when you and me started motoring, when you could weld bean tins into exhausts, you could put body filler into major structural components of a car, and it would pass its MOT. I mean, now the MOT in the UK is a pretty stringent thing. If you do not have, I've had various cars that failed on MOTs for very small patches on the floor plan that have got holes in. Oh no, it's failed on that. Whereas years ago, you'd go, that's fine. It's not that structural.
Well, we shall find out more in the quiz later on today.
Oh, yes, can hardly wait. And in more news, in God, the state are just terrible news. A new report issued by the British government has revealed that 38 people have been killed in crashes on smart motorways in the past 5 years. The announcement came in response to a Freedom of Information request from the BBC's Panorama programme. The first time the Highways England, which manages the country's roads infrastructure, has reported the total number of deaths. Now, smart motorways came into heavy criticism in the 5 years since they were first trialled in the West Midlands in 2006. The removal of the hard shoulder to improve traffic flow means broken down vehicles unable to reach a refuge area are forced to remain stationary in live lanes with no protection against oncoming traffic. The BBC report also revealed that one section of the M25 motorway had seen a 20-fold increase in near misses since it became a stretch of smart motorway in April 2014. In the 5 years prior to this reconfiguration, there were 72 near misses. In the 5 years after, there were 1,485.
Wow.
It's also emerged that a warning sign on the same stretch of the M25 had been out of action for 336 days. Smart motorways are deployed across approximately 200 miles of the UK's 2,200 motorway network.
I'm not a fan of these smart motorways.
No, now they're talking about the M6 in Birmingham. I know the stretch of road. So I do like the fact that a warning sign had been out of action for 336 days, right next to a traffic cone on the motorway that had been there for the same amount of time as well, and a sign saying slow down to 50 that probably didn't have any reference either. Look, I've always thought they're a bit dangerous. When I was a kid, I remember back in the 80s watching a TV show about Singapore. And in Singapore, many of the people that work in Singapore, it's cheaper to live in mainland Malaysia. So they commute across the bridge that links the city-state to the mainland, and it's got fluctuating lanes. So in the morning, it's got, say, 4 lanes going across to Singapore with 1 lane going across to Malaysia. And in the evening, it's the other way around, something like that. And I remember sitting with my dad, who said, that sounds bloody dangerous. And I went, yes. So you've got no central reservation. Now, you've still got a central reservation in the UK, but what they've got rid of is the hard shoulder. Is that area of the road that you can park your car if you break down.
Yeah. I went to Reading yesterday, and there's about a 15-mile stretch of average 50-mile-an-hour speed limits on the M4.
Oh, yes,
they're doing exactly the same work.
Brilliant.
There to make them the smart motorways.
Now the problem is, yeah, you're right. If you break down, although I'm increasingly seeing dickheads breaking down in the outside lane and standing in the outside lane. That I've never seen before. The last 5 years, I've seen a lot of that. So you get idiots that'll, my car's broken down, I've lost power. Rather than I will go over to the hard shoulder, I'll just stop in the fast lane, get out and stand on the central reservation like a dickhead, waiting to be rescued, which is insane. If you are on a motorway, and you break down, lose power, try and pull over to the hard shoulder, and then get out of the car. And if you have to pull out onto a lane that's still active, get off it, get onto the bank, get into a field, get away from the car as far as possible. Yes, these things are silly. They might increase traffic flow, but not having a hard shoulder is doesn't make any sense. And even when you're on the hard shoulder, you're always at a risk of something ploughing into a Hungarian truck driver watching hardcore porn ploughing into the back of you.
Oh dear. Yes, it's best advice is to get out your car. If you can pull away safely, get out your car. It's the safest place to be.
Indeed.
Should we do some more news now?
Yes, go for it.
Should we do you can have any colour so long as it's grey news?
Nice.
Yes, the UK's favourite car colour is apparently grey for the second year running, according to statistics from the Society of Motor Manufacturers and Traders. Lots of zzz in that. The hue is the most popular shade of new cars sold last year. More than 1 in 5 cars driven off forecourts were painted grey, while more than 500,000 grey cars were registered in 2019, an increase of 5.3% on the year before. The runner-up colours were black and white, not black and white together, but black and white, meaning that almost 2/3 of new cars in the UK last year were a shade of monochrome. The top 10 colours were largely the same as 2018, although beige, which had crept into the top 10, was replaced by resurgent yellow.
Nice.
Oh dear. I didn't think beige was cool since like 1981.
No.
While the overall UK car market fell in 2019, turquoise gained 29.3% extra registrations, bucking the general trend. Silver, which has been in the top 16 times in the past 2 decades, posted its lowest number of registrations in that time. Only 201,008 cars, so if you were one of the 8, well done, were bought in that colour. Although grey was the favourite across the UK, Scotland and the Channel Islands preferred white.
Okay.
Britain's least favourite colours were maroon.
Old man car.
Cream. I'm not sure I've seen a cream car. And pink. Barbie pink. Popular colours varied according to car style. Black was the colour of choice for executive and luxury saloons, which I think it usually is anyway, while drivers of small cars and zero-emission cars tended to opt for white. It was, of course, the legendary Henry Ford who, when releasing the Model T, said you can have it in any colour. So long
as it's black.
Black, yes. So what we're going to do, first time on Car-Boyz, we're going to do top 10 car colours for 2019. All right, not off.
In 10.
Yellow. It's the colour of curry and coronation chicken.
In 9.
It's bronze. That's what you get if you lie on a beach.
In 8.
Green. Supposedly clever people choose this colour for their cars.
In 7.
It's orange. Yes, President Trump's complexion.
In 6.
It's silver, the true colour of every baby boomer's hair.
In 5.
It's red. It means stop, but hey, sometimes if you're fast enough, it can mean go.
In 4.
It's blue, like most of our material on the show.
In 3.
It's white, pure of the driven snow.
In 2.
And number 2, it's a non-mover. It's black in a PC world. Can I even say this anymore?
And this year's number 1.
It's grey, a non-mover. Number 1 is topping the charts for the nation in 2019 was the awe-inspiring grey, which says a lot about the British. But hey, my Mini is also grey as well.
That's right. Henry Ford. I love that quote. You can have any colour as long as it's black. And my father always told me, and my grandfather always went about, black cars. In England, I know it's different in the States, but in England, right the way up to the 1960s, it was black cars. But it does beat I remember growing up the 1970s. Oh my god, it was purple,
browns,
and beige.
Yeah.
The 80s was pastels.
Yes,
a lot of sky blues.
I think the 90s was quite garish. There was a lot like chameleon colour paints.
I was going to say, do you remember the Volvo? The VW Polo, which was like it was the Benetton
Harlequin
Polo. Yes,
the Harlequin,
which looked like. I remember my grandfather going, He's been down the scrapyard for spare panels because every door was a different colour.
Yes, every panel, unbelievable.
Very,
So yeah, I think that was the 90s. I think the Millennium was more silver. I saw a
yes.
lot of cars that were silver in the Millennium, and now we seem to have gone to grey.
It's grey. Grey. Weirdly, it's almost like a flat grey, isn't it? It's not shiny or metallic. Mine is quite metallic. Black's in. Black, but I think the worst thing about a black and a white car, black is incredibly hard to keep clean.
Yes.
White is incredibly hard to respray.
Yes.
If you remember the old white cars of the 70s, it wasn't white; it was white and orange because the rust used to pour through the damn thing.
Oil stains.
My other half has always had a grey or a light grey or a silver car. She will not have a black car because she's worried about getting hit. Said, at least the colour. She said black's not, a loud enough colour. So that was always what she's done. But yes, it's sad, isn't it? Grey.
It's not very inspiring at all.
No. Yeah, never mind. That's just the Brits. Right, final news story of the week with less than 6 weeks to go until the doors open at the Geneva Motor Show, Europe's biggest ever motoring event. It's time to take a look at the most important new models being unwrapped. Now, we're expecting to see the hot GTI version of VW's new Golf, its platform sharing, of course, with Audi A3, and the facelifted Mercedes E-Class. Now, not every major manufacturer is going to have a presence at this year's show. However, Lamborghini has confirmed it won't be attending, instead chosen to focus on bespoke events for its new models, while the PSA group, including Peugeot, Citroën, DS, Vauxhall, and a million others, also Jaguar Land Rover, are taking a rain check. A new addition for the event in 2020, and I have seen this, I'm doing work for a company at the moment who've got some footage of this, is a 456-mile indoor test track for alternative fueled vehicles, set to allow visitors to test 48 different types of electric, hydrogen, hybrid cars. There are a few laps of the Palexpo venue in Hall 7. The track comprises sweeping turns, tight bends, and a long start, straight finish. A friend of mine has been going down it on an electric bicycle come motorcycle. And he said it's amazing. He said he feels like Tron because the electric bike is either on or off. Very strange that certain brands aren't attending Geneva. I was there in the 90s, and every brand you could think of was there, especially the European ones. I wonder whether this signals sort of the end of car shows. Less model car makers, less car makers, less models. Don't feel a need to unveil them at sort of traditional shows such as this.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? We've been arguing on this show that lots of cars are becoming one and the same. So is that the reason why? It's like, well, do people really want to see the pretty much the same version of a different car? Don't know.
And are you going to get a bigger reach by just, say, some sort of, release, targeting people who already own those cars with some sort of electronic multimedia, hit people on Facebook? Yeah, who knows? I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure about that, but, come in. But yeah, I was quite, honestly, when I went to Geneva, so I went in 96, they let us sit in the cars, and I thought that's what you did in every motor show. And then my mates were going, "You've got to sit in the cars." I sat in because there were very few English people there. It was mostly people from the continent, and we turned up to Geneva not knowing the motor show was on. I went, "Oh, let's go to the motor show." Me and my other half, and we wandered around the motor show, going, "Oh, let's sit in a Bentley." And the guy's like, "Oh, you're Brits, wicked. Do you want to come and sit in this Aston Martin?" Went, "Yeah, we'll come and sit in the Aston Martin. Yeah, we'll come and sit in the new Jaguar." No intention of going to buy any of these things. Yeah, do you want some literature? And I came home with stacks of mostly literature in French because they didn't have any English there.
Yeah. I remember I went to the London Motor Show, and there were certain manufacturers. This was when it was held in Earls Court. There were certain manufacturers like Ferrari and Maserati. They wouldn't allow you to sit in the cars unless you could prove you could buy one.
Brilliant.
Which you kind of go, well, half of people probably never going to afford it anyway. That's what the motor show should be, to allow people to go and see these cars, which they may never even get a chance to sit in.
I have a vivid memory of sitting in a Jaguar with the lamb's wool car mats.
Oh, okay.
So it had lamb's wool interior, and then on the lamb's. I mean, what are you going to drive this car in your slippers? Carpet and cars has always confused me because I go, why? Well, it's
just gets messy.
Well, I don't know about you, but I have the carpet. Then I put a car mat under it. Then I put a rubber car mat under it. So why don't just make the floor out of rubber? I don't understand car mats and carpet. I don't take my feet off. I don't take my shoes off and my socks off and rub my toes through lamb's wool carpet when I'm driving at 30 miles an hour or 80.
I think the secret probably is because then it provides insulation, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, we know that, but couldn't you provide insulation and then put a layer of rubber over the top so you could wipe the when you get in the car with dog shit on your shoes, you're not rubbing it into the lamb's wool carpet. It's just a thought. Are you ready for some classic car selection?
Yes, let's do a classic car.
It's rather apt music this week.
Sacre bleu, sacre bleu.
Mais oui, c'est si bon. Yes, it's time for the classic. Just hang on. Shut up, Francois. Shut up. That's better. Okay, time for our classic car selection. It's where we take a look at some cars of yesteryear and find diamonds in the rough. There's plenty of expensive Italian and German cars out there on the classic car market. We here at Car-Boyz want you to find the undiscovered future classics that will only appreciate. This week we say mais oui and c'est si bon to a French car that doesn't have any of the cachet of the other brands and models, but was a huge workhorse for the French family man for 17 years. I'm talking about the Citroën CX. Now, way back in 1974, it was the perfect replacement for the legendary DS and took all of the best parts of its 1955 predecessor and added a few new tricks of its own. So it was technologically a tour de force with typically innovative and individualistic sleek looks. The CX featured the usual hydraulics, controlling many aspects of the car, plus very power, or DIRAV, drivi, ultra high geared self-centering steering, which took a little more getting used to. It was initially offered in a 2-litre and 2.2-litre, but more powerful versions wouldn't be a shortcoming. 1977, after the demise of the much-loved SM, which was a Citroën Maserati hybrid, the company launched the CX GTI using the DS's 2.3's fuel-injected 2.3cc engine. It gave 128 horsepower and top speed of 120 miles an hour. While the cars could be identified by their special alloy wheels, blacked-out trim and more sports-orientated interiors. In 1984, the Citroën made things even more frantic with the CX GTI Turbo and later the Turbo 2, which developed 168 bhp. These cars have true cult appeal, as does the CX-25 DTR 2, due to its effortless acceleration and surprising top-end performance. The interior was wonderfully idiosyncratic on the Series 1 cars with rotating drum instruments. Oh, yes, I remember those. Made it look like a plane. And touch-sensitive brake pedals, although from 1985, the Series 2 cars had traditional instruments with a more modern look, if less visually appealing colour-coded bumpers. Engines extended from the 2-litre petrol, 2.5-litre diesel, with the latter still being a popular workhorse today. CX are one of the toughest gigs in the industry to replace the Citroën DS, but the French car company was riding high in terms of confidence on the back of the GS and the SM. And it learned from those cars to create one of the great executive cars of the 1970s. It featured everything from a super smooth aerodynamic body, high pressure, self-centered steering, and ride quality to die for. But the cost of developing such a car brought its maker to its knees in 1975, leaving it to be bailed out by Peugeot. But 10 years on, Citroën launched perhaps the greatest of all, the CX 25 GTI Turbo. What a ride. I've driven an estate version of this, and the ride was precise but floaty. I think this is the car, especially the CX GTI Turbo, for someone who wants a classic from the 80s, like a Quattro, but bulks at the price. Champagne car on beer money. It's a very period car, one-point styled steering wheel, proper 80s fabric interiors, lots of grey with go faster stripes. It's also a feat of engineering that can still keep up with modern traffic almost 30 years after the final one rolled off the production line. Now, what to look for? Well, it goes without saying you need a model with low mileage, full service history, and lowish number of owners. That being said, the engines of most of these cars are capable of topping to $250,000 if serviced right. The good news is no cam belt after 77 models. The bad news is if it does have a cam belt, if it does need if you're buying one, make sure it's had a new clutch, because to replace the clutch is an engine out job.
Ooh.
Yes, expensive. The electrics can
Yes.
be dodgy on the latter ones, but that's really no different from Fords of the same era. The interiors are very fragile and often impossible to repair, so maybe get friendly with your local branch of the Citroën CX Owners Club. The big one is a French car, of course, rust from the 70s and 80s. These rusted everywhere. Check the wheel arches, under the bonnet, roof, the bottom of the doors, behind the wings, and then behind the wings. Sunroofs are also great water, and then a rust trap. Estate cars usually attract more rust than the saloons. Have a good look round. Now, price-wise, gone are the days when you could get one of these for £1,000.
Yes.
Saying that, we did see one on the internet for 1,500 quid, but you need a tow truck to pick that one up. A tow truck and a large bottle of ibuprofen, because this will cause many headaches. Spend under £6,000, and we found a 1985 25 Palais model, full service history, 2 owners, under 90,000 on the clock, no signs of rust. But splurge up to 15, you're into GTI Turbo De territory. And we found a 1986 model with 3 owners, mint condition, 58,000 on the clock, no mark, no tears on the interior. Now, although I personally have got a penchant for the older models with the dials that rotate, telling you your revs and MPH rather than needing the needle go around a circular dial.
Brilliant.
It makes you feel like you're in an aircraft. That's probably just me. So why not say, oui, s'il vous plaît, un zut alors to the Citroën CX. Do it now before the door to Europe is completely fermé.
These are absolutely beautiful cars.
I had a Citroën AX, the same
Yes.
time period. It was a 1987. I didn't have it in 1987. I was too young to drive. But I had it nearly 10 years later. It was a pretty good car. It wasn't bulletproof, and I drove around 50,000 miles in 4 years. It broke down on me only once, when an ignition module failed. The rest of the time, it was the electrics, occasional problems with batteries going flat, but really, it was the last time Citroën made good, solid cars. And the CX is a good, solid car, but it's a car of an era, so you've got to take care of it. You've got to get it serviced. And I drove an estate version of the CX that had, I think, 160,000 miles on the clock.
Wow, they're absolutely brilliant cars. I must ride like a magic carpet, surely.
It's a weird ride, because you can actually do a bit of oversteer in it, because you get in it and you think it's floaty, and it's not. It's floaty, but it's pretty precise. So it's not like a huge land yacht, like an American land yacht. It's not like a giant Cadillac that's like, look at me floating along. It does that. It irons out all the bumps, but if you want to go right, it will go right. And actually you go, you can sort of oversteer a little bit too much.
Fantastic.
But it's a great car. I honestly, I couldn't speak highly enough of cars of this era, but look out for the rust. And I think get in it now as well, because I think these cars are only going to appreciate, because the next 10 years will be on to the ZXs and the XMs. That will be the cars that are like, they're going to be the future classics in sort of 10 years. This is, I think you're at the bottom. If you can get in it now, this is the car these cars are going to appreciate.
Oh, fantastic.
Shall we do some Lost Highways?
Yes, let's go for it. Let's have some Lost Highways music. Fantastic. So it's the Lost Highways. If you haven't heard the show before, it's our feature where listeners email in and give us their favourite roads and their reasons why they love them. It could be a quiet coastal road that leads down to the sea. Alternatively, it could be a straight 2-lane black top that leads to the infinity and invites you to gun the pedal to the metal. Whatever your position is, let us know your preferred and your perfect driving road here on Car-Boyz. So, should we do the first one this week?
Yes, go for it.
Doug, he writes in from Nevada, and he says that his friends love to visit him and take a trip across the state to Death Valley.
Is that friends he doesn't like? He's trying to get rid
of. Yes, exactly. Yeah, he goes with some friends, and they don't all come back with him. From Mammoth to Death Valley is about 3 to 4 hours, with a lot of people, a lot of things to see in between. Hopefully, you'll have already had the chance to see Death's Postpar, which is in the Mammoth, so you can head south and spend some time exploring on the way. In Death Valley, sites along the western portion of the Highway 190 include Father Crowley's Vista Point,
Okay.
Mosaic Canyon, Stovepipe Wells Village, and Mesquite Sand Works. I'm guessing that is no, Mesquite Sand Dunes and Devil's Cornfield. Furthest east and south are Salt Creek, Harmony Borax Works, and the Furnace Creek area. I love all these names. Before continuing on the 190 east, a southern detour down Badwater Road is a must to see Devil's Golf Course, which isn't one that's owned by Donald Trump yet. Badwater.
Great snow in New Mexico. It's shiny. China invested there. It's great.
China, Artist Drive and the Golden Canyon. The eastern portion of the 190 contains Zabriskie Point, from which the 1970s movie took its name, the 20 Mule Team Canyon, and Dante's View, which is 12 miles off the main road, and you will see a spectacular grand finale to the Death Valley visit. From Lone Pine head 85 miles to Stovepipe Wells, then another 25 to Furnace Creek. The Badwater Scenic Trip is about 40 miles round trip, including Artist Drive. Then you'll return on the 190, about 56 miles to the ghost town of Death Valley Junction, and 60 more back to Las Vegas. So he says blah, 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 blah. What you should do is mobile phone do not work, or if you're American, cell phones do not work there. Make sure you take plenty of water, a tarp to cover the car if it breaks down, plenty of gasoline, and try to get the car that is beyond just roadworthy, or you could end up as bones in the desert.
I am so concerned that everything is like, if you come to England, you've got things like Potter's Way and Fluff It. I think Saddleback Mountain and all this. You hear in this part of America,
Furnace
Creek, Devil's Stovepipe, Devil's Cornfield. What else have you got? It sounds ominous. Badwater Road.
Yes. Yeah, I think there's a theme going through this.
You're going to die if you go there and don't take any water. He has got a point, though, because from the perspective of people in the UK, pretty much you never really, even if you get into the Western Isles of Scotland, you're never more than 20 to 30 miles away from a petrol station. The whole of the UK has got cell phone coverage. I've been walking up the Lake District to the top of a mountain, and I'm getting better cell phone coverage in the centre of London. You go out here, you haven't got cell phone coverage, so you want a car that's not going to break down. You want plenty of gasoline because you don't know when you're going to get to the next truck stop, service station, gas station. And and we've all seen The Hitcher.
Yes.
Who was in The Hitcher? It wasn't Dolph Lundgren, was it? It was.
I don't think it was. We'll look that one up. That's what
yes.
But anyway, if you're a friend of Doug's, beware.
Yes. Yeah, and especially if Doug brings a spade. If Doug brings a spade and a gun, we need this gun for protection. Why are you bringing a spade, Doug? Well, I suppose if he did bring a spade, he'd be Doug less. Thank you. Right, we're staying on the other side of the pond, and we're going to Ottawa, Canada. Seema123 emails tells us about a local road she loves, the Frank McDougall Highway. The Frank McDougall Parkway on Ontario Highway 60, or the King's Highway, located 4 hours outside of Ottawa. A stunning drive in the fall. The best, most twisty part of the road winds over 180 kilometres of Algonquin Provincial Park. Completed in 1937, the road's a great way to see one of Canada's beautiful parks and is famous for colourful foliage in the fall. She said it's going to take you at least, that's autumn for people over here. It's going to take you at least 4 hours in total. It's 360 kilometres. There's about 300 miles from start to finish. So take lunch. You're going to head out of Ottawa, basically keep going along Highway 60 until you reach Huntsville. Then you can turn around and head back or spend the night in one of the local B&Bs. It's not a Stelvio Pass, she says, but in the autumn with the full leaves, it's a wonderful way to see rural Canada without even breaking into a sweat. She said plenty of restaurants and truck stops along the way. Isn't just a straight highway. You get plenty of twists and turns, making it an exciting drive. Although I guess you have to watch out for moose on that one. Mooses and the Mounties.
We'll have to do a rant about mooses then next week.
If you want to get in touch with the show, give us the... actually, you start off with the... are we on Instagram now?
Yeah, we're on Instagram. We're on car_boys with 3 Zs. And that's our handle, car_boys with 3 Zs.
With 3 Zs. Yes, if you go, our Facebook page is, you can email us, I should say, at car-boys with a Z at outlook.com, car-boys with a Z at outlook.com. Facebook, we are car-boys with a Z at car-boys 4 Zs on the Facebook page. Twitter, car-boys with a Z at car_boys with a Z. I'm just looking up who was in Hitcher the movie.
It's Rutger Hauer.
Rutger Hauer's just died, hasn't he?
Yeah.
The Hitcher. And apparently they remade it in 2007.
Yes.
The original was 1986. Great movie.
It's amazing what information we have at our fingertips. Also, that was SEMA 123. That was Ottawa, not Ottawan, which was the band that I'd hit with DISCO.
DISCO. Now, another really weird thing. The guy that wrote DISCO was the father of one of the guys out of Daft Punk.
Oh,
yes. So there you go, keeping the dance music in the family. Yes, okay. I think it's time for the letterbox, the letter page, the, as we like to call it, the mail bag.
Have we got any music for the mailbag?
No, we don't have music for the mailbag.
Oh, okay.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I'm looking. No, we don't. No music. Sorry.
Let's do the first one. The first one's from Sally from Malta, and she writes to us. She's in an age in 1987 Escort 1.1, and she says she pootles around the island in. It's on its last legs. It's done 150,000 miles on the clock and more rust than the Titanic. What should she go for next? She has around €2,500 to spend, and she needs a 4-door. I do love the old 1987 Escort. The 1.1 was the old OHV engine.
And she would like something with no rust around the doors, I assume, as well as the 4 doors. I dread to think. Sally, can you send us a picture of this car? Because I really want to see how badly this car looks.
I don't know. Malta's quite fairly hot, isn't it?
Actually, that's the point. They've got a history of classic car, especially British classic cars in Malta. So maybe a 1987 Escort over here would be unless you're keeping it in a heated garage, that's going to be a pretty rusty car.
Yes. So I don't know. Maybe not. So what she's got? What's €2,500 to spend?
Yeah.
4 doors. That puts her in the territory of possibly something small. The Escort was pretty small in those days by comparisons. Yes. So if you look at today's one, the equivalent would probably be a Fiesta. That's probably even just slightly bigger than the old Escorts. Fiestas are good. What would you go for?
Fiesta Focus. I'd go Japanese. Okay. Biggest. But I mean, if she's, I mean, it sounds like she's been with the Escort a lot since '87. If she's had it that long, she probably is really into Fords. Then I would say a Focus or a Fiesta. If she wants a small car, Japanese, maybe go Toyota Aygo. They do a 4-door. Honda Jazz, an older one. A Toyota Corolla. Every car we've mentioned will be twice as fast as that 1.1 Escort.
Absolutely.
And maybe because she's in that part of the world, I don't price wise, I haven't had a look, but I'm thinking maybe Seat or Fiat will be quite cheap.
Yeah.
Maybe a 4-door Panda.
Fiat's pretty good because Italy's not very far away anyway from Malta as well. So parts quite easily readily available. So.
Yes, go for it. You've got plenty of choice, it looks like. Meanwhile, Andrea writes to us from New York State. She wants to travel from the top of the Americas all the way down to the bottom. Okay. She's specific about the route. She wants to go from Vancouver in Canada that's at the top, all the way down to Tierra del Fuego in Argentina, which is right at the bottom of the Americas. So from North America, properly from North America, from Canada all the way almost to the Falkland Islands. Can she do it? She and a friend do it? And in a word, no. There's no problems through Canada and the United States, the PHC, and even into Latin America. Albeit slightly more dodgy once you cross into Mexico. There is a coastal highway, good roads through Mexico, El Salvador, Nicaragua, Costa Rica gets slightly less hairy. The problem is when you get to Panama, you're buggered because there's a mountain range called the Darien Gap, which will not allow you to drive through to Colombia. Now, they used to run a ferry service and did carry cars at one point to get you from southern Panama into northern Colombia, but they've stopped this now. And governments on both sides don't want to encourage the drug trade from South to North America. And so no one's bothered to build a road through the Darien Gap. They're incredibly high mountains. People have crossed it in 4x4s over the years. There's all sort of, we went from North America to South America. Yeah, it did, but you went in a 4x4 with a huge team, a support team behind you. It's one of these. There's the expeditions funded by Jeep or Ford to prove how great the Cherokee is, or something like that. Why not drive down to Panama and then catch a flight to Bogota in Colombia and just hire a car or buy a car there, or drive down to Panama and then ship the car from Panama to Bogota, and then you just jump on a plane. You can't even get over the Darien Gap on a train or a bus. There's no way. You've got. I know the ferries are running now, so you've got to fly. Your choice is at some point you're going to have to fly. So that would be my suggestion. Saying that, I've been on the roads in Mexico on the hang on, let me get it right, on the West Coast, and the roads are really, really good. They're as good as they are north of the border. And I would always say a lot of the there's a lot of misnomers, how talks about how dangerous Mexico is. I didn't find it that dangerous at all, and we drove quite a bit. So certainly on the big highways, you're going to be fine.
So there you go, Andrea. That's our advice to you. We've got another one. KMT555 writes to us from Taiwan. He says he wants to come to Europe. He's only got about a year left before it all goes mad. For a holiday for 3 or 4 weeks. How should he travel around, and should he hire a car? So our advice, we were in the notes for this, we were suggesting possibly by rail, because the rail network in Europe is pretty good and not expensive at all.
Yes, don't drive here. Don't drive from Taiwan. That's going to take you quite a while. Public transport, mainland Europe, not so much the UK, mainland Europe is really good. There's a thing called the Interrail Pass.
Absolutely.
That will let you travel all over Europe by train from £200. And I've got friends that did it years ago, and they would go, I'd say, did you go to Austria? Yes, we went for Austria to the day, and we just travelled through it on the train and slept on the train. And then what I do, if it was me, when you get to somewhere really interesting, hire a car for a few days. If you want to get into the French Alps, or say get all the way down to southern Spain, or maybe get to Croatia, and there isn't any public transport, then go and hire a car. I personally did a month in southern Spain, frightening 20 years ago, and but I looked at the prices now. It's still really cheap to travel around southern Spain on a bus. We went from Madrid to Granada, from Granada to Cordoba. From Cordoba, hang on, I think down to the Costa Tropical. So, hang on, let me get it right. Not Mallorca, Malaga, Torremolinos, Nerja, and we just travelled everywhere on the bus, and it was always 5 to 10 euros, and I think it's now 10 to 15 euros.
That's great.
The buses were really good, all funded by the EU. The buses and the roads were really good, and it was really easy, and I wouldn't bother hiring a car. It's so easy, and then you can also have a drink and stuff like that. But the buses were really on it, and they were air conditioned, and they had TVs on them. I remember watching, I think, a Humphrey Bogart film in Spanish, not understanding a word of it.
The problem only comes when you come to this country, because our transport system doesn't work.
It's very cack, and hopefully you've got some time on your hand if you're going to travel around the UK by public transport. My father, when he semi-retired in his 60s and got bored playing golf, so he used to deliver cars for VW. He did it for about a year. So somebody would buy a car, and he would drive it up, deliver it to the house, and then he'd have to get back to the offices where the VWs were dispatched from in the Midlands. And he'd go all over the UK on public transport. So he'd go to Manchester in less than 2 hours, and he would get back 9 hours sometimes on public transport. Things have broken down, things not working. Once you get off the main roads as well in the UK, there really isn't anything. So, I think it'd be all right in mainland Europe, less so in the UK. Finally, we got Jakey Snakey 12 from London. Wants to know how he got that name. Who gonna? Yeah, Jakey Snakey 12 as well. Big boy. Wants to know how he should check if his car needs a service. He's just been given the car by his uncle. He hasn't got a clue. He said it's a 1990. Great. Ask your uncle. Why are you asking? Mind you, he's asking Car-Boyz. He mustn't have a very close relationship with his uncle. He says, he's just been given this car by his uncle. He hasn't got a clue about cars. It's a 1999 Volvo S40. and
Yes.
he knows it's had a service and it's had an MOT. Right. Firstly, ask your uncle. Secondly, get hold of the service book if you can. You need to know when it was last serviced. If it should have been done within the last year, you want to know when it's had an oil change, new air filters, new oil filters. It's a 20-year-old car. It needs new spark plugs every. What are we looking at? Every 12 months.
20?
New oil,
Yeah.
every 12 months you want a new oil change, probably new air filters, probably new oil filters, potentially new spark plugs.
Yes.
The service book will also tell you what things have been replaced. The S40, like most cars, has got a cam belt that needs changing on the S40 every 10 years. Check this has been done. If that fails, it will be a write-off. If it's petrol, if it's diesel, not so much. If it's petrol, it will be a catastrophic failure, which means it will completely shag the engine. If you're unsure, just take it. Ask your uncle who's serviced the car. Take it to a reputable garage for a once over. They shouldn't charge you for this. They should just say, okay, this needs doing, this needs doing. Ask your uncle where he takes his cars, or ask someone who knows about cars. Again, it's a 20-year-old car. It could be an absolute rotter.
If I'm not mistaken, the S40, the first ones, the 1999 ones, were underneath the Mitsubishi Charisma.
Oh, really?
I seem to remember.
Okay.
Yeah, mechanically, that's what they were. But yeah, you just need to check, make sure the oil. It's good to get into that. I mean, it's just been given the car by his uncle, so you might as well just start off and just say, do the service.
Yeah, just get a service done, and then a good mechanic will tell you if there's anything that needs replacing, if the tyres are on their last legs, if the brake pads are on their last legs. It's a Volvo, so even of that era, the Volvos are relatively bulletproof.
Pretty much so.
It's a nice car to start off with. It certainly beats the Citroen AX, which is what I started off with.
Yes.
So he's a lucky boy.
The lucky boy in more ways than one, Jakey Snaky 12.
Snaky 12, yeah, indeed. It probably just refers to him liking keeping, having a, what is it?
12-inch singles.
A 12-inch single, yes.
He collects vinyl.
Yes. Shall we do the quiz?
Yes, let's go for a quiz.
Oh, yeah.
That's right. Live from London. It's the quiz of the week. We should have got the little anglia, the horse thing spinning around.
Oh yes, we should have. In honour of, we've been mentioning this Nicholas Parsons, who was absolute legend of British broadcasting. I think was he 97? He died this week.
Yeah, absolutely. So
he presented the Radio 4 show Just a Minute for 50 years, and of course was a game show host of the 1970s of
Sale of the Century.
Sale of the Century, classic British show. So
we are going to do a quiz, but it's not going to be Sale of the Century. Earlier on in the show, we were talking about vehicle standards and what we call in this country the MOT. Now, the MOT was introduced by the Ministry of Transport, hence the name, MOT, 60 years ago, and is the cause of anxiety amongst drivers across the whole country. It's like having a child go to hospital. So this week, we test our contestant, Rich from Southwest London, on his knowledge on the MOT.
And this coincides with me having an MOT done on the Honda Accord this week.
Of course.
Which all the listeners will be glad to know came out A-OK apart from one tyre.
Fantastic. So that's all good. It's as if this show was planned.
Exactly.
So, eyes down looking. You confident with the MOT?
Oh, yes, I am.
Okay, so question number 1. When the MOT was first introduced in 1960, when was a car required to have an MOT? Was it A, after 10 years, or B, after 5?
Ooh. So 1960, hardly any people on the roads. But if you're thinking a car from 1950, well, I'm going to say 10 years. I'm going to take a punt on 10 years.
Bing is the right answer. However, so many cars failed that MOT that they subsequently changed it to 7 years because it was too tough. So, correct. 1 out of 1. Number 2, it's a true or false question. In the UK, is having a dodgy clutch an MOT failure? True or false? Ooh. Having a dodgy clutch an MOT failure?
Now, I know a Speedo isn't an MOT failure. And neither are electric windows failing, because I've had these things go wrong with former cars. You could tell the quality of cars I've owned in my youth. I'm going to say not.
Bing is the right answer.
Fantastic.
It is. It's not an MOT failure. The clutch, engine, and gearbox condition are not covered by the MOT.
Wow.
So 2 out of 2, 100%. And this time, yes or no? If I had a tire tread depth of 1.7 millimeters, would my car fail the MOT?
It would
yes
not.
or no? Absolutely. Do you know why that is?
Isn't 1.6 the legal required?
Yes, that is absolutely right. 1.6 isn't, but we obviously would recommend that you get that changed anyway.
Yeah.
So far so good. 100%, 3 out of 3. Question number 4. In 2016, the car with the worst pass rate for MOT was the Peugeot 5008. But what percentage passed? Was it A, 67% or B, 73%?
Oh, I'm going as low as possible. I'm going 67%.
Is the right answer. That is correct. Only 67% of Peugeot 5008s pass their MOT. So 100%. Question number 5. Still on pass rates, the area where your car is least likely to pass its MOT is in Kirkcaldy in Scotland. But what percentage of cars pass their MOT? Is it A, 43% or B, 53%?
43 or 53. They have very good whiskey north of the border. So I assume the money got spent on that and chips and haggis as opposed to the car. No worry about that. What are my two choices? 43?
43 or 53?
I would say the higher, say 53.
That's correct. Yes, I like the way you're thinking. 5 out of 5.
Excellent.
Well done.
Excellent.
Question number 6. The first MOT on a car is due after 3 years. So statistically, what ratio of cars will fail its first MOT? Is it A, 1 in 4 or B, 1 in 6?
I'm going to go for 1 in 6.
Oh, you're very good at this. You're absolutely right. 100%.
Excellent.
6 out of 6. Question number 7. Yes or no? If I had a dangly air freshener in my rearview mirror, can my car fail its MOT?
Now, it shouldn't. Does this extend? What about? Does that include a CD?
Do you know why people used to do that?
No, go on.
Because when they thought that the cameras flashed their cars when they're speeding, that if it caught the CD, it would flash the camera
back. Genius. What about some mini boxing gloves or a set of booties? Does that?
Well, this is what I'm asking.
Okay, no. Do you know what I'm going to say? Because I have a Colomboy, which is a small ethnic child from the forest. No, it's a talisman from the. Anybody listening with Greek heritage or Turkish heritage will know exactly what a Colomboy is. It's a set of beads that you play with. I've got one of those in both of my cars. Nothing to do with it. It's just the fact I went on to holiday in Greece and I ended up putting it on the car. So I've put those both in the car. So I've never failed an MOT with it. So I assume I'll say no. No!
It's yes. Technically, your car can fail its MOT because it says if your damly bits obscure the view of the road.
What about Jakey Snakey 12? Do you think his dangly bits obscure the view of the road?
I don't know about Jakey Snakey 12.
I'm amazed at that. Well, maybe my mechanic just takes it off.
Possibly, or just ignores it. So long as you don't get a obscured view of the road, it's
okay. All right. I'm not winning. This is. I was going for hoping for 100%.
You go exactly. Okay, question number 8. Back to the MOT success rates. Kirkcaldy has the lowest pass rate for MOTs, but it has It has a success rate which is the lowest, but at 15.6%. Where is the best pass rate? Is it A, Enfield, or B, Kingston upon Thames?
Oh, and not bloody Enfield where you live.
Or Kingston upon Thames?
It's definitely Kingston upon Thames where I live.
No,
really,
no, it's Enfield. Yes. 15.6% is the failure rate for Enfield, so it's the best in the whole country. If you want to get your MOT, get it in Enfield.
Doesn't Enfield have a history? Down here, you see, Aston Martin was round the corner in Hanworth for a while. Who was in Enfield? What manufacturer?
Cosworth were. What kind of it?
Cosworth were up there, okay.
Yeah.
That surprises me, but there you go. There you go.
Yes, 15.6% failure rate. So actually, it's very good.
North London, not Surrey. I'm surprised.
Absolutely. So question number 9. What is the most common cause of an MOT failure? Not giving you any options for this.
Oh, okay. MOT failure. Okay, I'm going to go for emissions.
No, it's not. It's something to do with your lights, whether it's blown light bulb, cracked lights.
Blown bulbs. Damn, of course.
Oh, we started so well.
Yeah,
but anyway, last question. Question number 10. You go away with your Bendy Bully and the best of Car-Boyz on CD. In 2018, classic cars became exempt from taking.
Can I have it on tape instead? Sorry.
Yes, 8-track, we'll do it. Classic cars became exempt from taking the test so long as they have not been substantially changed. But what age do cars become exempt? Is it A, 30 years old, or B, 40 years old?
It's 30 years old.
It's not. It's 40 years old.
40?
Yes.
Ridiculous. I thought, as a reader of Practical Classic, I know they were always calling for this to be. So it's now 1980 this year.
Yes.
Wow.
So if you've got a car that was produced before then, you don't have to take an MOT so long as it's not been substantially changed. So well done.
Wow. Okay.
Majority of the questions right.
Yeah, 6 out of 10. I started off well and it sort of tapered off, but never mind. There we go. So I'll get the crowd are going wild. It's been great to come down here. Shocked about the statistic about Enfield. I prejudged Enfield, you see. I shall never prejudge it again.
Good.
It's obviously a place in the world where people care about their cars. Unlike Colcoddy, where they care about drinking drink. I don't blame them. Right, that's about it from Car-Boyz this week. Thank you for tuning in. You can email the show, Car-Boyz at car-boys@outlook.com. We will endeavour to answer your car questions, be they car-related or not. Any questions, keep it clean. car-boys@outlook.com. Jakey Snakey, 12. He's a big lad. I wonder if he has to have special trousers cut. It's just a thought. On Facebook, we are car-boys at car-boys with 1, 2, 3, 4 Z's at the end. Car-boys with a Z at car-boys with 4 Z's at the end. We are Twitter, car-boys, boys with a Z, at car_boys with a Z. Simon, what are we on Instagram?
Car_boys with 3 Z's.
Fantastic. Right, well, then go and enjoy a European-free week this week. I shall be walking around wearing Union Jack T-shirt and definitely not drinking wine. What about yourself?
I'm going to meet up with Jakey Snakey 12.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.